Hello, this is Chris Parker with the Business Simplicity Podcast, and I just had a conversation with John Elbing from Standpoint about his new book, Storybuilding, which today, the day that this episode is being launched, is available for pre-sale on Amazon. So, hey, John, can you just give us a little teaser about the book and why should they order it on this special pre-sale day?
Okay, thanks, Chris. To be quick, so story building is a methodology to help companies engage with their customers. Companies talk too much about themselves, and here the idea is to build a story where your customers are engaged and move forward your business. It's a series of canvases and procedures that helps you rethink your positioning and strengthen that. And so the pre-order is coming out today, January 16th. I'm dropping the price to 99 cents to get everyone to buy it on this first day. And to add to that incentive, you can get three things. One is an online assessment of your website. It goes through the same 12 steps to help you learn, what are you missing to engage with the customers. 45-minute video call with me to work on your specific problem, and joining a community of people that want to work on their positioning, their messaging, their storytelling, because it all works better when we work together. So buy the book today, because tomorrow it'll be 10 times more expensive.
The Business Simplicity Podcast, where we learn about strategies and tactics to succeed through simplicity, with your host, Chris Parker.
Welcome back to the Business Simplicity Podcast. This is Chris Parker, and I'm having a conversation with John Elbing. And I know John from the Enablers Network, which is a fantastic group of professional coaches and consultants and educators that help companies go through really massive transformations, cultural transformations in this crazy time of disruption that we live in. And John has his own company, Standpoint, and you can find that at standpoint.ch. And on the day that this podcast is going to be released, he's launching his book about storytelling, business storytelling, on Amazon. And so when you're listening to this, if you're listening to this on the day it's launched, I would even say just press pause right now, go to the link, because you're going to be able to get this fantastic book at a discount with some bonuses, and we'll talk about that at later on this, the opportunity around that. So this is only on the day that this is being released. However, of course, afterwards, I think it's on the 26th of April, 2025, off the top of my head, is when the actual book will be released. So if you haven't got it on, this promotional pre-sale, then just wait a little bit, and then it'll be available to you in the end of April. So, John, thank you so much for joining. I'm excited to learn more about you, learn more about your framework, and of course, your book journey. But I know you are a coach, a consultant. You help businesses on their storytelling, on their branding. You're also an educator. But can you just give us a little flavor on how did you kind of make this your work, working with business people on their story, which is so incredibly important?
Okay. Hi, Chris. So I'm really happy that you're to be here with you. So almost 10 years ago, I started coaching startups. And I have a background. I was a software developer. Then I went into finance, and then I worked in marketing. I had some startups. And this sort of variety of things actually helped to coach in a lot of different directions. And I got into all these frameworks and canvases and used up a million Post-its and brought out all these insights for these entrepreneurs. And then I found that they were sometimes a little bit lost because they didn't know what to do with all this information. And that's where I got into storytelling. Because somehow by using a storytelling framework, it forces them to decide who are they talking to, what's important, what's less important. And somehow, yes, you get this story at the end, which you can use for marketing. But just the fact that you have to focus, that you have to decide, that you have to structure, it aligns a team on a story. And often going through this storytelling process helps work on your positioning, on your focus, on your whole, and so I found that businesses come out sort of transformed with this.
And can you give us an example of how a story has helped transform? Because I can imagine you got a team, in a business model canvas, and from my experience, the business model canvas is amazing, but also quite dry. I mean, it's the supply side, the consumer side, and the business models in there, and it's quite analytical and quite dry. And how you have an example off the top of your mind that where they did some good canvas work, but then just I guess really boosted that or let that shine through a storytelling approach.
I found that often these canvases, well, some of them, give this sort of interesting snapshot, but is still focused on the company. And so a lot of companies talk about, we do this, and this is great, and then they say, oh yeah, we have to talk about the problem first. So there's this problem and we have a solution. But that still sort of stays, they're talking about themselves and they're not really taking their customer's standpoint. My company's name is Standpoint because I think it's so important to take their standpoint, but also to have a standpoint. So somehow, a company will say, we do this. And going through the storytelling process, you say, who are you talking to? What are their aspirations? What are their problems? How do they feel about that? So that when you introduce your solution, you can say, and this is why their life is better.
Mm.
Well, it sort of gets into so I used to use the value proposition canvas a lot, which is the
Yep.
subset of business model canvas, which is the one that really makes you look at the pains and the gains and the jobs for your customer. And I found that was a little bit limiting. I also went and got I'm a story brand practitioner, so I used some story frameworks, and then I've just been tweaking that and bringing in these extra elements. Let's see if I can find a simple example. Well, there's this risk of saying it's for everybody, so that's great, and then nobody recognizes themselves. And so if I'm encountering a brand, I can recognize myself and think, damn, that's me. I mean, they get my situation, they understand my problem. Then I'll be open to listening to why that solution is interesting or not. We have this sort of really quick reaction. We walk next to, and there's that perfect coffee shop, and you think, that's for me. You haven't looked at the menu yet, and then I go into a high-end luxury store and think, that's not for me. But even I'm looking for a to-do app, and it says, this is the best to-do app for teams. And I think, I'm not a team, and they've lost me. Even though the product itself might be what I'm looking for, if I can't identify, then I won't engage.
Well, in the I guess the art of story building, and I think what we can touch on the framework a little bit. And again, I've learned a lot of this from your website at standpoint.ch. Well, in my background, I've done some film production and the art of creating that script. And I'm not a script writer, but as a producer, I've been involved in these things. And they do a lot of character development and arc of the story and dialogue refining. And something I kept bringing in, maybe from my business customer experience design background, was, but who is the audience of this movie? And how, so I think there's this different standpoints. And when you're doing customer experience design, like, the top left, area of the story building canvas is the first impression, so like you just mentioned, when you're walking by that coffee shop, there's going to be something that's really, off-putting or attracting for, let's call it your ideal client, ideal customer profile, that, hey, I'm here as a coffee shop owner or barista, and I love working with, certain type of customers. And now let's create the story that will attract more customers like that, I guess, and attract even more baristas or people to work. And it's just, make it very comfortable for a certain type of person. And I guess if you try to be everything to everyone, then you're nothing to no one. And so, is this the
Exactly.
essence of it? So maybe just get into the don't explain the whole framework, but because that will be in the book, and they're gonna have to get the book to learn more about that. But how does a framework, I guess, walk them through that story building process, and what are the key steps of that could spark some people's imagination?
So I structured it in 3 steps. So the idea is this first step is the recognition. It's for me. They understand my problem, and I feel that it's for me. And if it's too vague, too open, or the wrong target, then I won't be interested. And then I have to understand. So that first step is sort of very emotional, and then you get into then you go up into your brains to say, so how are they different? What should I compare them to? Do I clearly understand what they're offering? Um, and and so if that is I think that's interesting. Then I get back into the emotion saying, oh yeah, but change is difficult. How is this going to be easy? What's going to happen? Are they going to be there for me? And so there's this experience of, and it can be just the purchasing, onboarding, the help. Will it be hands-on? Will it be self-service? What is it going to feel like to interact with this company? And when the company chooses this identification step, they're gonna choose one major aspiration. You're a caring father or something. There's something that is strong, and then one major problem. Out of all the problems you solve, out of all these aspirations that you help people attain, you're going to make that choice. But then you can come back and say, but then you'll avoid these problems. You'll sleep soundly, and imagine this positive future. And this imagining of what it'll be like through the experience, but also through the benefits and through the things. Often companies will, at best, say, here's the problem, here's our solution. But even if you're just in a cocktail to say, and this is why their life is better, is a real powerful step.
And if told as a story, I think, like a narrative, and this is how people can get their imagination flowing as well. One thing that what just triggered me in your description is around competition. And on your website, you have a survey that people can kind of do in a self-assessment on their own website, and the storytelling power, or I guess strength or weakness of the website. And I went through that. It was fascinating. And one of the things that kind of made me pause and think and go, was, does the viewer, does the customer, the audience, understand who your competitor could be? And I understand the value of that, because then they can put you in a certain category, and they say, okay, you are a to-do app. You're not a dating app, you're a to-do app. And everyone is trying to be differentiated somehow. And so this is something that I'm just curious how, when you're telling that story, do you have an advice on how can you be clearly part of a category and yet dramatically different? And maybe it's in the storytelling itself. Like where would you go with that?
Having difference, being unique. There's the old way of doing things, and this is my way of doing things. If you want the old way, that's fine. But if you want the new way, that's me. And this idea of category. And there's this thing called category design, where they've studied category leaders and the fact that you own a category. If you can create a new category, you can take up 2/3 of market share, and that's a very powerful position, because instead of selling your solution, your benefits, you're selling the category. And since people associate you with that category, and you can tell there are some categories now, between Airbnb or whatever there, where you think of holiday rentals, you think of Airbnb, even though other companies have been around a lot longer than them. The other risk is if you're in the wrong category, you're selling high-end wine, and people think it's basic wine, they'll never buy it. One really interesting example I had, there was this medical research startup that was creating Petri dishes. To make it short, the sequence is you test a thing in vitro, and that seems promising. And $1 billion later, you test it in vivo, and you think, oh, damn, that didn't actually work out. And so what they do is they coat this Petri dish with some organic stuff so that that first test is a lot closer to the end result. So you can basically save $1 billion if it doesn't work out. And I said, how much do you sell it? And they say $100. And I said, you're saving them $1 billion? And they were selling a Petri dish.
Mm-hmm.
They weren't selling medical research revolution. They were selling a Petri dish. And people, that's really important. The other easy example is apps. So you have this incredible software that's saving money for a company or earning money for a company that's so valuable. If you compare it to an app, that's sort of free, so that looks expensive. But if you compare it to a high-paid consultant that would be doing the same work, suddenly you see the value of what you're delivering, and it seems ridiculously cheap. So if you can fit in the right space in people's minds, that can be very powerful.
I guess that comes back to the job to be done or the pain to be resolved. I think you're getting into the value proposition canvas type conversation there. And if you can attach it to that aspiration, so you accelerate their gain, you accelerate their value, or you reduce or you minimize their pain or suffering. And in business, that could be cost or waste or or whatever it could be. Then you've got a story. Then you say, hey, I come in and I remove this massive thorn in your side, and allow you to go do more, whatever it is more valuable in your company. Is this the essence of the story? I come in and solve this problem or magnify this value for you so that.
Yeah. I mean, at the end of the day, I mean, it boils down to benefits, of course. I mean, if they didn't have a problem, they wouldn't need you. I mean, so you are showing them how their company can be more profitable or their life can be better or whatever it is you're showing. And I think part of what adds to the story is the emotional side. You're frustrated because of this, and you'll be relieved, or you'll be, I'm going to mow your lawn, or I'm going to make you proud of your yard when you invite your neighbors. And that makes a difference of how a lot of people, they'll sort of intellectually compare things, but the purchase decision is often very emotional.
Mm-hmm.
Even in, B2B settings, you're going to buy the new ERP for a company. Well, maybe we can make you the hero of that company, or maybe it can change things that will make people more motivated, or whatever it is. But this emotional side will always be important.
Well, let's take this a little bit meta, and there's a book coming out about story building. And what's the story of the book? So, like, who is the ideal reader? What is the problem that they have? What value could get at the end, and what would be the emotional payback? It's like how would we describe this forthcoming story building book in the context of this conversation?
Often companies talk about themselves too much. There's a subtitle on the book called "Stop Talking About You," and by doing that, they don't necessarily delve into why it's interesting for a specific customer and then which one is best. So this idea of choosing your ideal customer, I'd rather have 10 times less customer prospects, but that love me, than have 10 times more that are all indifferent.
Right.
So I think I forgot the question. So companies, by talking about themselves, lose connection with their customer, and then get lost in the flow. And so by stepping back, understanding who your customer is, and then what motivates them, but then stepping back on your own company to say, how do we actually help that audience? And how will we make their life better? And all these things allows them to build a story where their ideal customer will recognize themselves, get why it's good for them, and imagine how that'll be better. And that creates engagement. And also, their non-ideal customer won't be attracted. So it limits these sort of false positives of people coming and asking you questions and realizing, well, that's not for you, which can be just as important.
I love the who's not your customer. Sometimes when I do customer experience trainings and coaching, I spend time on the anti-persona or the anti-customer, meaning it's great to document the customer who you believe is the perfect, that's the perfect match. And then how do you describe the customer that you absolutely do not want? That for, might even be profitable. So it's not, you don't want them because it's loss making, but you just do not want, because they will be a distraction, because they will be pulling your product and your process in a different direction, or basically it just wouldn't be authentic. It wouldn't be authentic to your story. No, I absolutely love that. And being able to have that in mind, so you can, when a prospect comes in, you go, well, actually, no, well, you're not part of our story. So, no.
And so if you can craft a story where some people will feel, ooh, that's me, and others will sort of pass their way because it's not. Instead of having to tell them, that's a good step.
Well, talk about storytelling. I'm a huge Disney fan. I only have one tattoo on my body, and it is Mickey Mouse related, but we won't show you that on the video. But I went to a course at Disney Institute. It was about recruiting and retention, and one of the stories that they told was in Florida at the casting building. They went so over the top in Disneyana that if you weren't in love with the Disney experience and ethos, you would want to puke and run away. So it's, there's little puppets, there's a red carpet. Even before you can fill out a form and application, you watch a video which tells you all, also it's unionized. So there's also, realize that it's not only all this Disney stuff, but there's also all these, you can't have a beard, you can't have, earrings, all of the stuff. And if you're still great with that, then they'll talk to you. It was really, to design that whole recruiting journey to absolutely attract people like me, and absolutely, disattract people, who aren't like me. No, I read it. I read it. And so through the book. Yeah, go ahead.
I was just going to add something, because it's a kind of Trojan horse kind of thing. Companies are really interested in improving their messaging, improving their engagement, making, better marketing, improving their website and all that. But then I found that invariably when they go through the process, that actually shifts their strategy. So they're not up to going into a strategy session and all that kind of stuff. They're into the marketing, but then it forces them really to choose who they want to work with, where do they put their emphasis on their delivery, how can they improve the experience, how they can make, and they get caught in how they're making people's lives better. And it really shifts. And that's almost the most important part of the whole thing. So yes, they get a new website, but they also, really step back and see how they work. I had a company that had this amazing coffee machine. It was this big automate thing, and you had a QR code. It was zero waste. It would make cappuccinos and all this crazy stuff. And they were trying to sell it to companies as their coffee corner. And most companies would say, why would we pay so much for a train station coffee machine? Because in their mind, going back to the category, big automated coffee machines aren't very interesting. And they got into this idea to say, in their story, it was about delivering this magical experience. So 5-star hotels and high-end clinics and things responded to that because they were into making this magical experience. And that match was much better than trying it, to sell to the insurance company down the lane kind of thing. And so it just shifted their sort of company persona and how they were presenting themselves, and that matched the persona of their ideal customer.
it's almost a story-based process of refining your product market fit. So we have this product, trying to fit this market, or maybe even channel in some cases like that. um I'm a little disappointed that this book isn't here yet, so I have to wait till April. So um
You'll have to wait.
when if you were to order the book today, people listening today, and I think this will be launched on the 16th of January 2025. You'll have to wait, I guess, to April, so a couple months
3 months.
later to receive it. But if you order it on the pre-order day in this special, not only will you get a discounted price, vastly discounted price for the digital version, but there's also some other bonuses that are eligible. So, John, can you share a little bit about what, when I order, and I will, what bonuses might I be eligible to receive?
Okay. So yes, so the idea is to try to concentrate on this launch, maybe become an international bestseller, all that kind of great stuff that can happen. Get some buzz going around this book that I found that has been really useful. And so, first of all, it's 99 cents for that one day. Just you'll get the ebook as soon as it comes out on April 26th. And so, first thing in, you'll get access to an assessment of your current website. And it goes through basically the same 12 steps of the method to say, hey, are you happy with this? Are you happy with this? Are you happy with this? And you'll come out with some ideas of maybe things you might be missing, or things that you can work on. Then, if you have a specific issue with your messaging, you're frustrated, you can have a free session to get started with me, a Zoom call. So you just tell me what your situation is, and we can talk.
Now, just to be clear, is everyone eligible for that, or are you just picking a few winners?
Everyone is eligible for that. You do have to sort of a little bit of effort to have a situation that you want to talk about, and not just talk.
Wow, what an incredible! So 99 cents for 45 minutes with you?
Yes,
potentially. Okay, no brainer, people, go get it. Yeah. And you get the book.
And then I'm setting up a community, and the idea is this seems to work a lot better when you're in a group, because you do the story in your corner and this is your best guess. But if you can work, first of all, your whole team, but then have other people see it and feedback, and so I'm setting up a community so that people can go through the process, but then exchange, and hopefully we'll come out stronger.
Outstanding. So do you know the landing page site that will be available on today? Like what is the URL that people can go find?
I'll give that to you so you can.
Perfect. That'll be in the show notes. And I'm sure you can find it on standpoint.ch as well. It'll be well promoted there. And also I'm sure John will be very busy on LinkedIn before and during and after the launch. John Elbing, yes. I'll put his link to the link to his LinkedIn there. But personally, I think this is valuable for in my world. I'm involved in corporate work, so I typically always have I call it a corporate enterprise role, and I can see how this could apply there in a team base. So working with a management team, working with a product team, working, product marketing as another way of refining and looking at some of these things in maybe from a fresh lens of true storytelling, even though it's still based on a canvas. So there's a structure here. I'm also based on, let's call it, smaller initiatives. So like enablers for me it's a community of coaches and consultants that are also working on their story building. So I think if you're working on a start, enablers isn't a startup, but if you're working on a smaller initiative that you're still refining, and enablers keeps attracting amazing new people, so the story keeps evolving, I think that would be and also like myself with my own ebullient business designers, and I'm worrying about the story of that, because I think maybe business builder might be a better thing, because actually I'm much more hands-on. So I can imagine there's a lot of different applications, either for solopreneurs or small teams that are starting initiatives or refining initiatives, and also larger organizations in those teams. So outstanding. John Elbing, thank you so much. And reminder, everyone, you can get him at standpoint.ch and also on LinkedIn. So John, thank you so much for sharing, and go get the book today, people. for a special price, access to some tools, and potentially a time with John himself. So thank you, John.
Thank you, Chris. This has been great. So thank you for all that. And I'm a little nervous this week, and it's exciting.
Isn't it exciting? The whole book launch process is, having gone through it last year, it's just anxiety, excitement, delight, curiosity, and so happy to be a small part of that journey and having this conversation with you and helping promote your message, your tool, and your book. Thanks, John.
Well, thanks you again.
Thank you for listening. Visit ebullient.com. Don't forget to like and subscribe to the podcast on your favorite player.